Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Good Boxing Podcast with your host, Josh Sias. Today, I got another episode for you. I told you I'm going to come out with multiple episodes today, and I'm going to deliver. Jaron Ennis boots, what can I say? Yesterday, he took on Sergey Lipinets in his biggest test at 147 pounds without a question. We knew Jaron Ennis boots had talent. You see the highlights. He can box southpaw. He can box righty. He can punch. He can move. He can seemingly do it all. But we needed to see him do it against a quality opponent. And Sergey Lipinets was certainly that. I thought Sergey Lipinets was the perfect stepping stone and good benchmark for Jaron Ennis boots. I wanted to see how his skills would translate at a high level. Sergey Lipinets has been in with a bunch of good fighters, Mikey Garcia, and the list goes on and on. But Jaron and his boots last night set the tone, showed that he's not just hype, and he showed that he's the real deal. He stopped Sergey Lipinets in the sixth round with a devastating left uppercut. Right from the southpaw position, he generated power that just knocked Sergey Lipinets out. And once he was on the floor, the referee knew it was over, and I think it was a good stoppage. However, in the fight, Jared and his boots decided to stand his ground more than we were used to. He looked last night like he wanted to make a statement. Everyone thought, hey, he's another boxer with skills and talent, can switch, do all these things. But is he rugged? Is he tough? If he gets touched, what's going to happen? Right. And Lipinets hit him. I'm not going to say or lie to you. He hit him with some really, really good shots. But one, Jaron and his boots has a fantastic chin because Lipinets does hit tremendously hard. However, I like the way he rolled those shots off. He never really took anything too clean. And what did he do? He gave it back. Sometimes when you have a bully, you have to hit the bully back in order for him to stand down. And that's exactly what Jaron Ennis boots did. Anytime Sergey Lipinets looked to gain some sort of momentum or looked for any sort of wilt in Jaron Ennis boots, he didn't show it. He returned and retaliated with fantastic power and fantastic boxing ability. This kid is the truth. Period. I just cannot wait to see him up against other opponents. I know. Where do you go next from here, though? Jaron Ennis boots happens to be on the right side of the 147-pound division when it comes to promotional companies, right? PBC right now, hands down, is the king of 147 pounds. You already know you have Errol Spence Jr., you have Danny Garcia, even though I'm hearing that he's moving up. You have Errol Spence Jr., you have Keith Thurman, you have even Josecito Lopez, and the list keeps going on and on. And now add Jaron and his boots to that stable, and you undeniably have the most deep promotional company and um, basically a stable of fighters to fight one another, right? If you're looking to develop a brand name. So I personally think they mentioned the Danny Garcia fight after he beat Sergey Lipinets. I think that is the logical fight. Both fighters happen to be from Philly. Danny Garcia is, unfortunately, I'm not going to sit here and say he's a fading star, but he's no longer the prolific brand name after taking a couple of losses back to back to back. I know people try to adopt the MMA mentality that when you lose a few times, it shouldn't blemish your record. But Danny Garcia has lost a couple of fights in a row. And every time he seemingly has stepped up, he comes a little short. And look, I'm not trying to denigrate Danny Garcia because he's a fantastic champion and he has accomplished a lot. And I feel like Danny Garcia has fought everyone. He's basically Samuel Vargas, but he's actually won against top level fighters and he's competitive. You actually can arguably say that he won that fight with Sean Porter, and you could arguably make an argument that he beat Keith Thurman. If you look back at that fight, it was very close, but in both of those fights, you give one or two rounds to Danny Garcia, and you can say that Danny Garcia won. There were split decisions, and honestly, Danny Garcia is the truth. I think that's the fight that makes sense. Both fighters are from Philly, right? I had mentioned before that Danny Garcia is a fading star. Then you also have an upcoming um, superstar in the making prospect in Jaron Ennis boots, who is willing to step up. What I like about Jaron Ennis boots is he's looking to fight the best. He didn't have to fight Sergey Lipinets. He could have fought another 147 pounder to keep padding that pretty record. But I like the fact that he took Sergey Lipinets and then only not did he just fight him and win a nice unanimous decision, which he could have. Truthfully, if he wanted to, his movement is superior to Sergey Lipinets. He could have boxed and not got touched, but he chose to make a statement and say, hey, Terrence Crawford, hey, Errol Spence, hey, Danny Garcia, hey, Sean Porter. The list goes on and on. I'm here. And I like that. I do like that. I like the fact that the kid looks like he's the goods, but he also is looking to be great. He's not looking just to be a paper champion. He's looking to get the belts and potentially unify. And we haven't had that for a long time other than Errol Spence. Terrence Crawford certainly is the goods. I just haven't really, in my opinion, seen Crawford carry himself at 147. Listen to me. I'm not saying he hasn't done that in other divisions. It just seems at 147, Bob Arum's moving him in a different direction, and he hasn't really been able to cross the street and fight people from PBC. I'm aware of politics. I'm aware of all that. And I truthfully think Terrence Crawford would fight anybody. You put him in front of Terrence Crawford, the money's right. He would fight anyone because he's a fighter. So I'm not saying that Terrence Crawford doesn't want to fight anyone. It just so happens it just isn't happening at 147. But Jaron in his boots fights Sergey Lipinets. I hope he fights Danny Garcia next. I think that's a good crossroad fights for both guys, right? Danny Garcia beats Jaron in his boots. All of a sudden, now he beat a hot prospect, and maybe he fights someone else and kind of gets back into that conversation because Danny Garcia needs to start winning again because he's not just going to be able to keep getting these prolific, high profile fights if he keeps losing. So Philly versus Philly, you can sell the bad blood. Both are on PBC. And I think Al Heyman's going to start putting a little more stock in that Ennis Boots train. I think he needs to, and I can't wait for the fights to unfold. I want to see Ennis versus Ugas. I want to see Danny Garcia versus Jaron Ennis Boots. I want to see Sean Porter versus Ennis Boots because these fights are great for the division and they're great for boxing in general. It sucks when everyone just wants to see Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. If we're not getting that, why not get the second best thing where Ennis Boots maybe fights Errol Spence down the line, or even Ennis Boots fights Crawford, but you'll still have the same kind of issues that Errol Spence would have given the fact that they're both under the PBC label. So why not let the best stable in 147 pounds right now on PBC fight each other? I think it's perfect for everyone. I think everyone can get the competitive fights we want, and we're going to get fights that there is and are major stakes on the line. I do believe Jaron and his boots when he says he wants to be a champion by 2022. I think that's certainly possible because the kid is one or two fights away from being at that elite level and mentioned in the conversation of maybe potentially fighting Errol Spence or someone of that caliber because he keeps putting on performances like this and he talks his way into the opportunity. I can certainly see him being at that level. However, don't get too high on one performance. I didn't think he was going to blow out Lipinets the way he did, but knocking out Sergey Lipinets, who is not a scrub by any means, is a great statement in the other direction. Conor Benn, Jaron in his boots. I'm loving what 147 pounds are doing, and I'm loving the fact that these fights for these young up and coming fighters are living up to the hype. You saw Virgil Ortiz, you saw Jaron in his boots. You're seeing Conor Benn all fight in their prime, looking to step up and be great. This is what boxing is about. And truthfully, I'm very, very happy that we're getting the fights we want. The next couple of weeks, the next couple of months, I'm looking forward to all of the fights happening, and the content's going to keep coming. I just want you guys to have a good day. And thank you so much for all the support. Follow the podcast on Instagram at Good Boxing Podcast. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you like what you're hearing, if you don't like what you're hearing, hit that thumbs down button. I like that too. Just let me know your feedback. I want to hear what you guys have to say. I love having conversations with people, especially when we don't agree, and we can just have a fun dialogue because boxing at the end of the day is a fun sport that we all love, and we may not agree with one another, but we do have those dialogues. Thank you so much. Have a great day.